Hello and welcome to the St. Lucie County University of Florida Extension Solutions for Your Life. Today we have our two 4-H representatives. We have Tanya Derez, who is our 4-H leader, and we have Debbie McManus, who is our 4-H specialist. As you can see, they're framed in this wonderful 4-H picture, and I think they have a couple of friends along with them. Do we? There we go. So, girls, thank you for joining us today. And I think what I would like to do is, Tanya, can I start with you, please? And could you just talk a little bit about your background, other than you were a puppeteer in your previous life?
Thank you, Ed. Yes, so I am the 4-H agent here in St. Lucie County, and I have a background in wildlife ecology and conservation, and I am also a certified science teacher for high school youth.
Excellent. And Debbie?
I'm the St. Lucie County 4-H program specialist, and I go into the schools with youth development school enrichment programs.
4-H has been in our county for years, and so a couple of the first question I have for you is, when we say 4-H, what do the H's in 4-H stand for?
So since there are 4 H's, it is head, health, heart, and hands.
Very good. And then they also have a 4-H motto.
Yes, the motto is learning by doing.
And that's what we're gonna do here today, isn't it? We
Yes.
have all sorts of really good props, and by the end of this show, everybody's going to know a little bit more about water quality and what 4-H is. So how many, you have a lot of clubs for 4-H. Club activity has been around again for years, and it's built up over time. How many 4-H clubs do you have, and approximately how many members?
So this year we have expanded our clubs. We have a total of 30 clubs going into our 2018-2019 4-H year. And out of those clubs, we have some small animal, swine clubs, steer clubs, equine clubs. We added a entomology club this year, and we brought back our shooting sports club. And we have a poultry club too that we've also added, and within that club we service about 400 kids in St. Lucie County, and with those 400 kids we have 50 active volunteer leaders within those 30 clubs.
And so these clubs meet primarily after school or in the evening, and I know a lot of them will meet out on our campus out on Pecos Road. And with each club you have a club leader or two club leaders.
Yes. So this year we have each of our clubs, they have a main leader and then a co-leader, so they work together. Each leader has their own responsibilities, and then they come together as a team and present educational programs and community service projects with the kids.
And as part of your responsibilities, you train those leaders to hopefully be good leaders and strong leaders, and so you hold specific meetings for that, correct?
Yes, we do. So all of our volunteer leaders are background screened. They are level 2 background screened, and then they go through a 4-hour leader training, and they learn about all of our guidelines for our 4-H youth development program and how we need to teach our kids and use the learning by doing motto. And those leaders are then taught the skills and given the educational materials that they need to then teach the kids.
So the 4-H movement is what you want to do is to prepare these kids to become good citizens. And
Yes.
so how do you go about that?
So the unique thing about our 4-H youth development program is that our kids are learning the life skills. So our schools, our educational schools in St. Lucie County, they're teaching our kids all of the basics of English, math, science, history, PE, all of those activities, but we're also, with our clubs and our 4-H program, we teach them the life skills. So taking all that information that they learn inside the school, and then we have them apply it to real life activities. So our club youth are participating in raising animal projects. So they're taking some of those math skills that they learned in school, and they're able to record and do some math, I guess, with the scientific portion of the raising of the animal. So that's how much feed does that steer need in order to get to that optimum weight when it comes to the final fair weigh-in.
And so you also are able to provide them with some business skills, because they're going to have to figure out what the cost of that feed is, all of that's going to go into that animal to raise that animal, and then what they're going to need to sell that animal to make sure they made a little money, or at least broke even.
Yes, absolutely. So those kids are, they're learning about the ethics of raising that animal, and also if they were to become a farmer later on in life, and how to manage their money and their time with the animal within that project.
And even if they don't, and they decide they want to go into business, they have those skills available to them.
Yes. And so those life skills, they are going to be with the animals, giving them the basics. But some of our projects within our clubs are not just animal-based. We will also do healthy living. We teach healthy living with our kids. And in our club meetings, we always try to have our and some type of element of healthy living inside the club. That's physically getting up and moving around within the club, doing some community service that might be walking the beach and cleaning up the beach. So that's teaching the kids about healthy living and moving around, physical activity. And during our clubs, the kids always have healthy snacks. So we're teaching them, don't just eat cookies and cupcakes all the time. You know, you can replace those things with apples and tangerines and other healthy fruits and vegetables.
Sure. You mentioned, you talked a little bit about school and school enrichment. So, Debbie, I know that is a lot of the time that you spend is in schools, and you have for a number of years. How many years have you been working in the school system?
This is my 24th year.
24th year.
Yes.
And, you know, I know that every time when school starts up and you go out to talk to the teachers about your programs, they're booked. They're instantly booked. You're in demand.
Yes, high demand for our 4-H programs. Not necessarily me, but we offer many different programs with Florida standards, educational standards. So we're there to help the teacher enhance their science program or math or language arts, whatever they want to apply that standard to. So our programs enhance their curriculum. So
Okay.
we're not a filler. We're an enhancement.
An enhancement. So what would some of those programs be? Give us an example of one where you've, I know there's been instances where you've actually written books for the teachers, workbooks that were according to these Florida Sunshine Standards. And
Yes.
you go in and you teach that with the teachers and the students. So
Right.
give me-
So we create a curriculum around a subject. More recently, since I believe 2013, the Indian River Lagoon since 2013 has been in the forefront of everybody's minds. It's on the news. And when we went into the schools, we found out that 97% of students had never even heard of the Indian River Lagoon, and they live right here in St. Lucie County. So we provide some Indian River Lagoon education with a boat tour of the Indian River Lagoon. And we go to Indian Hills Recreation Area, which is one of the props that I brought here to show you. So we talk about stormwater runoff. And this year, the kids are going to be learning how to use a compass and actually go around Indian Hills and have to do a scavenger hunt using a compass to find educational components regarding the best management practices at Indian Hills Recreation Area.
Very good, very good. So that's a partnership between the St. Lucie County BOCC, 4-H, University of Florida, IFAS, and the City of Fort Pierce.
Yes, it
the
is.
Indian Hills, and we started that a couple of years ago, and we're working with the engineers over there, Dina and Jack
Yes.
Andrews.
Uh-huh.
And so let's talk a little bit more about your Indian Hills project, because I think this is a really
Okay.
really valuable project, and you have a nice little prop here
This is,
for
yes.
folks to look at. And so
So this shows an overview of what Indian Hills looks like. And a lot of people don't realize that as rain hits your driveway or your rooftop, it runs into the street and then goes into a storm drain. And if you are around US 1, around Publix area, I believe even over off of Oleander Avenue, all that storm water runs to the Indian River Lagoon via Indian Hills Recreation Area. So this is a retention pond, and you can see there's the community over there on East US 1. So the water comes right by them through a canal and comes into Indian Hills. Once it gets into this retention pond, there have been 6 different best management practices that have been implemented here in order to hold the storm water there while the polluted water drops to the bottom and the cleaner water rises to the top. Then it would flow over an outfall station here and then run to the Indian River Lagoon.
Okay, so approximately what would be the distance between, let's say, the retention pond and the lagoon?
Oh, it's very close.
Yeah.
A quarter of a mile.
Okay. And so you do this programming, you talk about these best management practices, but you do it in a really unique way.
We do.
And so let's talk a little bit about what you've done with that programming and how you've kind of made it a little bit more up to date in your teaching methods.
Sure. So when Tanya came on, Tanya's very technology minded, and I am not. So I'm learning a lot. And so we have been doing a drone program at Indian Hills, which started just before Tanya came, but she's taken it even a step further. So we did a drone video so that the kids could see an overall view without having to walk the entire thing. Then the gentleman that did the drone footage for us actually brings his drone there and does some drone, what's the word I'm looking for?
Aerobatics?
Aerobatics?
Yeah.
He does some drone skills, and the kids are all in awe because technology is where it's at. That's where the kids are they're very enthusiastic with technology.
And you were able to create a really neat video that you played for the commissioners in not only Fort Pierce, but in the county, right?
Yes. Yes, I did. I presented it to both sets of government were very welcoming to it. They enjoyed it and were very encouraging to our program.
Okay, so we talked about best management practices that are around this retention area. What are some of those? Why don't we go into a few of those briefly?
Okay, so one of the things that they did was create this retention pond. They increased the size so that more stormwater could be held here. They also put in a littoral zone all the way around, which is a plant zone. And as stormwater washes off of the ground, pollution, nutrients, that sort of thing are absorbed in the littoral zone before it gets into the actual retention, retention pond. In the middle of the retention pond are also 12 plant mats, and they are pushed out. Little plants are planted on these 12 plant mats and pushed out into the water, and annually each one is brought in, and those plants, the root system is growing into the water, hanging in the water. So those plants on the plant mat are absorbing more nutrients out of the water, nutrients that are not good for the Indian River Lagoon, but very healthy for the plant base that's there. The weir station was created here in order, the water has to rise 14 feet before fresh water will overflow the weir station. There was a chemical tank put over here, and it's called alum. And alum is a chemical that's sprayed into the water as the water flows down this little canal area before it gets into here. Alum is sprayed into the water, and it grabs the pollution in the water column and pulls it down to the bottom of the retention pond.
And also around this pond, there's a pathway you can walk around.
There
you can
is.
take your dog with you
Yes.
if you want. And there's fit stations for there's probably about 3 or 4 there or so.
Yes.
And then there's also pavilions where you can, if you want to,
Have a
cook
picnic.
out, have a picnic. So
Right.
it's really a nice way to spend an afternoon. You get to learn a little something, get some exercise in, have a lunch or so.
Yes.
So you've been working on this now for 2 years?
Yes.
And you'll be, again, so the kids come from the schools out to this area, and you walk them around and you teach them, and is that how it works, or is it more for the
Yes.
4-H clubs?
Oh, no, it's for any school in St. Lucie County. Grades from pre-K, well, for this particular program, 5th and 7th graders. But we have a lot more programs offered that encompass pre-K all the way through 7th grade.
So what are some of the other programs that you take in for school enrichment?
Sure. So this is why Tanya and I brought our little puppets
Oh,
today.
here, and I
it's
thought
our
that
little
was-
friend.
Yeah?
Yeah, it wasn't just to get your attention, Ed. We have the St. Lucie County 4-H Farm. So if you'd like to talk about that, Tanya?
So the farm, it is a program that we have our kindergarten through 3rd grade come out to it's about, say 5 acres or so, and we have farm animals out there, and we have the kids experience the farm life. And they're taught the purpose of having that specific animal on the farm, like what is their job on a farm. And so the kids rotate to the different stations, and they get to pet those animals and then learn about each individual animal and their job. It's a very interactive program. It's great because the kids get to hear the sounds and the smells of the animals that live out there. We also have a program for schools that can't physically make it to the farm. We're able to bring the animals out to their school, and we're able to have the entire school participate in what we call mobile farm. And we have a goat, a sheep, a pig, chickens, and possibly some ducks that can go and visit the school.
So you load up this rolling ark, if it were,
Yes.
and you take these animals to various schools.
Yes.
That is really good.
We do. And each grade level has its own educational component. So each grade level that comes out, every grade level that comes out is not getting the same thing. A 5th grader will not get the same education in the mobile farm as a kindergartner.
As a kindergartner, yeah.
So every year that they are exposed to the 4-H farm, we're able to build on that education. Every year it's a little bit more that we're adding, so the kids are not just rewinding and coming back again and just petting the animals.
So how many students do you think you contact between school enrichment and the farm?
About, as long as we don't have hurricanes,
Yes.
anything like that, usually about 4,000 kids we
Wow.
see. Yep. And Debbie does a lot of them with her water programs. And it's really good that we're able to get into our schools and provide these programs for our teachers and the St. Lucie County kids. We also have another program that we added last year. We started it. It's I love the program. It's it's embryology. Excuse
That's
me,
it.
embryology. So the teachers are able to have an incubator inside their classroom, and it takes 21 days for eggs to hatch, and the kids watch the embryo develop every single day. They keep track of that embryo and draw pictures, ask questions in a little journal, and then at the end they get to see the chicks hatch and keep them in their classroom for 3 days.
Wow. You know, we could go on and talk about this for hours, but you know what? We're also getting close to fair season. So
Yes.
in the last portion of the show today, I'd like to talk a little bit about how 4-H participates in the fair, how they get their club members to participate in the fair. So how does 4-H work with the county to prepare for the fair?
So the fair this year will be February 22nd to March 5th. And so our kids from starting September 1st, most of the kids, except there's a couple clubs that are starting from last year, they start to join the clubs in 4-H. They pick an animal, they pick an animal project, and they start learning about that project and growing and raising that project throughout the year, keep records on that animal, and then a couple weeks before the actual fair in February, they're preparing that animal, getting it top shape to be displayed at the fair.
So what are some of these projects, and if I was a homeowner and I wanted to go out to the fair and look at some of these animals, where would be the best places at the fair to see them?
So all of the barns, you'll have a horse barn, a swine barn, a steer barn, and a small animal barn. All of those will house all of our 4-H kids projects, and they're there from February 22nd until March 5th. They're there the entire time, and in each of those barns, you'll see all of their kids' projects, and you'll also see our 4-Hers out there feeding, watering, and taking care of their animals, and also answering the general public's questions about their projects.
Yeah, so you can walk right up to them, and
Yep.
they're sitting there, and they're as proud as can be, with their, whatever it is, with their horse or with their swine, and if you want to ask them questions, they love that kind of stuff, don't they?
They do, and if I may add also, not all 4-H clubs raise project animals or have animal projects. So the fair also has a building where all of our 4-Hers that are more artistic found. We have an arts and crafts area. Where all of their artwork has been displayed everywhere, from anything from posters to ceramics, Legos, robotics, horticulture. Some schools actually have a garden, and so then they participate in a fair contest with their vegetable program. We've also started in more recent years a new thing called Veggie Wars. And Veggie Wars, the 4-H members are given plants. This is provided by, or not actual plants, but the growing medium provided by hydroponics, provided by Dennis at Synergy Farms out on Highway 70. He's very involved with St. Lucie County 4-H, and he helps our kids, teach them how to grow. And we actually, our members participate in something called Veggie Wars. They all start with the same thing January 1st, and then they bring it to the fair for display and judging. So more than just animals, 4-H is so much more. And we really would like to get that word out, because when you talk to adults that aren't familiar with 4-H, more often than not, they think that we're just farm kids, and they don't realize that 4-H is so much more. And so we're growing and expanding. We're keeping up with the times. We've got several STEM clubs now, and we do drone camps. And so it's just more than animals. While our animal clubs are very, very popular, we have other kids that are just as passionate about their artwork or their robotics or something like that.
Well, and I think the work that you do out at Indian Hills is a really good example of that. I mean, we don't know of anybody else or any other 4-H in the state that are doing the work that you're doing with water quality. So you're leading the way. And I understand you, but Debbie, I got to tell you, the small animal barn is still my favorite.
It's
those little
everyone's,
kids
yes.
line up and they parade around with their guinea pig or their rabbit
costume
or in their
contest.
costume
Oh,
contest. So, and the fair is, like you said, it starts in February, on February the 22nd, and it runs for a week. And I know that all the folks in the 4-H office are always as busy as can be. We hardly ever see you.
Yes.
And when we do, we're not sure we want to talk to you. So what else, what else is 4-H doing these days? We know that we have the fair coming up, and you have some of the school enrichment, but what are some of the other programs that you're looking at or hope to create in the future?
How about some of the community service things that our clubs are doing?
Yes. So
like, they're very imaginative.
Yes, so all of our clubs are responsible for giving back to the community, and they do various community service projects with them. We are also developing something this year, our county council, and that is where we are having representatives from our clubs all participate in county council. So now we have our 4-H youth will have a group of individuals that if anybody asks what our 4-Hers are thinking or wanting, or youth, we're able to go to them and ask them exactly what it is that they're wanting to give back to our community and what the needs are in St. Lucie County.
So you look at not only community effort from your children, from your students, but also they're starting to understand a little bit more about leadership.
Yes.
And also how county government might function.
Yes.
And public speaking.
And public speaking.
yeah.
Yes.
That's right. You'd have the public speaking program, right?
We do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when does that usually happen?
So our kids are responsible, all of our 4-H club members are responsible for doing demonstrations at the club level. And then after fair, so after March, we start our county events, and that is where the kids compete and they do their public speaking and their demonstrations in front of a panel of judges. And then from there, the blue ribbon placers go to district events, which is other counties competing with our 4-H youth from St. Lucie County. And then from there, they can go on to the state events.
So one thing I'd be remiss in not talking about is the wonderful baked goods that your clubs put together and present to the Board of County Commissioners each December. So talk a little bit about that and how much our county administrators and our commissioners appreciate that.
Yes, so this has been going on for many years, and the county commissioners are so supportive of St. Lucie County 4-H, and we are so grateful for their support. And so the first county commissioner meeting of December, all 4-H clubs go to the county commissioner meeting, and they bring goodies and homemade pies and cakes and decorations and dog treats and that sort of thing, and we gift back to the county commissioners for their generous support of our clubs. And then the county commissioners allow the president from each club to stand up and tell them thank you and to share with what their club is individually doing in the form of giving back. And it's just a great.
Yeah, 300 kids overwhelm the
Yes.
commissioners' chambers, and what I like about it is that the kids that you do select to talk about their clubs, how literate they are and how well spoken, and I think that's very impressive not only for our administrators but for our commissioners and anyone else that chances to walk into that chamber that night.
Well, public speaking, it can be horribly embarrassing for a lot of people, children as well as adults. So, are we winding it up?
We're winding it up in the last couple of seconds, and I know we could talk about this for hours, but ladies, I want to thank you for coming on the show today, and more importantly, thank you for all the great work you do for the youth at St. Lucie County.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.